Hello everyone, welcome to lesson 79 of our Golang course. In the past few lessons, we have learned about coroutines and how to use them to perform operations concurrently. What we haven't considered is how to best handle errors from operations performed in our Goroutines. In this lesson, we are going to do that. So let's get started. Channels are the de facto way of getting data from or sending data to a Goroutine. So it should be no surprise to you that the preferred way to handle errors when working with Goroutines is via channels. You can handle errors from Goroutines with the help of channels in two ways. First is when you use a struct to couple together the result of the operation and an error if there is any. The second is to use a separate error channel to listen for errors. These two patterns are better understood with help of code examples. So let us have a look at some examples. Here, we are going to create a program that checks if a URL exists or not. So here I'm going to create a result struct that will hold the response from calling that URL and an error if there's any. So here we have the result struct that has a response and error if there's any. Now let us create a function that will check if the URL exists via a coroutine. I'm just going to call this function checkIfExists. The first parameter of this function is a done channel. As you can see, it is a read-only channel. Then we are going to set the URLs that we are going to check. So the URLs are going to be a variadic parameters. From the function, we are going to return a read-only channel that will transfer the results. First, let us create our result channel. A channel of result. Then let us start a Goroutine to check for if the URL exists or not. Inside the Goroutine, we are going to range over the URLs to check if they exist or not. Let's create a select statement to first listen on the done channel. If the done channel is closed, we just want to return. Then I'm going to create a default case. Here we are just going to call the URL. I'm just going to use the get function from the HTTP package to make the call. This is to simplify our example. Let's write the response and the error back to the channel, which is the results channel. So here I'm going to couple the response and error into the result struct. So we are coupling together and sending the response and the error back on the channel. This way, we are letting the parent coroutine decide on what to do with the result and the error themselves. Now let us close the results channel. And then outside the coroutine, let us return the result channel. So that's our function to check if a URL exists or not. Now in the main, let us first create a done channel. Done channel, which is of type empty struct. Then I'm going to call checkIfExists and then store the return channel into results. CheckIfExists provide the done channel, then the URLs I want to check. The first is google.com, which should exist, and the second one is a local host address that shouldn't exist. Next, I'm going to range over the result channel. I'm going to print the response if it's not nil. Here, I forgot to add the range clause, so let's add that. If response is not nil, let us print it. Or let us just print the status of the response. Similarly, if error is not nil, let us print that too to the console. Now, at the end of all this, let's close the done channel to indicate we are done with our work. So, as you can see, we are just ranging over the results returned from checkIfExists and then printing it to the console. We would expect a response to be there for google.com, but in case of calling localhost 300 which doesn't exist, we should expect an error. Let's now run our program to see how that goes. Go run main.go. And as you can see, for google.com we got 200 OK, but for the localhost address we got connection refused as the service is not running. Now this is one way of error handling in Goroutines, that is coupling the result and the error into a struct. Another way of doing the same is using a separate error channel. So we can remove the result from here. And now let's modify the checkIfExists function to return a read-only channel that holds the response and a read-only channel to return any errors. Let me zoom out so that we can see the signature of the function. So I have modified checkIfExists to accept done channel along with the URLs. So there's no change here, but the return values are now a channel that returns a response and a channel that returns an error. Here I'm going to modify results to hold HTTP response pointers. And then let us have error channel. Now the done case remains the same, but here let us modify the code to send results on the channels that we have. So if there's an error, we are going to write it to the errors channel and then continue on to the next URL. But if there's no error, we are going to write it to the results, the response that we get. I'm just going to modify it to say response channel. Here we are closing the response channel. Along with that, let's also close the error channel. And in the end, let's return both the channel. So that's it for the checkIfExists function. Now we are segregating the response and the error onto two different channels. Inside the main, let us modify the results to be now responses. And then let us also initialize our error channel. Now, since we are only making two calls, what we can do is we can just simply range our for loop for 2 times. This is not ideal for many situations, but for our case, it's all good. Here, let us create another select to listen on to the channels. First case is listening on to the responses channel. So if we get a response, we just print a status onto the console. And if we have error, we will print that to the console as well. And finally, we close our done channel. Now again, we should expect a response for google.com, but an error for localhost address. Let's run our program to see the output. And as you can see, we get a 200 OK for google.com and then connection refused for the localhost address. So that's another way of handling errors by using different channels for the response or the result and the errors. So in this lesson, we learned that handling errors in Goroutines is simplified with use of channels. You can either use a struct to combine together the result of a Goroutine function and the error, or you can use separate channels for results and error. That's it for this lesson. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, please post a comment under the video or reach out to our Discord server. Until next time, happy coding!